Okay, in this video I'm going to go over some stuff from lesson 8.1, the slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines. I'm going to go over a couple notes first, and then I'll go over the lesson practice. The main thing that you need to know for this section is the slope formula. You've used this before in Algebra 1, but it's rise over run, or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, the first example that I have here says find the slope of AB, and then it gives you the points for A and B. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and label these points so that I know exactly where to plug them in. Okay, if you don't need to do that, then you can skip that step. But it also does not matter if you choose to number this point first or this one, okay? But remember that each coordinate point has an X and a Y, so you're labeling them X1, Y1, and X2, Y2. Okay, don't label them X1, X2, and Y1, Y2. Okay, every single coordinate point has an X and a Y. And again, it doesn't matter what order these numbers are in. If I had made this X2, Y2, and this X1, Y1, that's fine too. Okay, so the slope. M equals, okay, Y2 minus Y1. Y2 minus Y1 would be 6 minus 4 over X2 minus X1. Okay, X2 is 0, X1 is negative 6. So I would have to do 0 minus a negative 6. Okay, if I'm doing 0 minus a negative 6, that means 0 plus 6. Okay, those two negatives cancel out. Okay, you can either put this whole thing in the calculator or you can simplify it by hand. So 6 minus 4 is 2. 0 plus 6 is 6. Okay, and then that reduces to 1/3. So the slope of AB is 1/3. The other thing that this section talks about is parallel lines and perpendicular lines. Okay, so if I give you two slopes for lines, then you should be able to tell if they are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Okay, so parallel lines have the same slope. So if I had another line that had a slope of 1/3, then those two lines would be parallel. Okay, perpendicular lines have slopes that are opposite reciprocals. Okay, here's what that means. Opposite means they have opposite signs. So you're going to have one with a negative slope and one with a positive slope. Okay, reciprocals are when you flip the numerator and denominator of the fraction. Okay, so if I was talking about a perpendicular slope for this one, because this is positive, I would need the perpendicular slope to be negative. Okay, and because this is 1/3, I would need to flip it and make it 3/1. So a parallel line to this would have a slope of 1/3, but a perpendicular line would have a slope of -3. Okay, I have another chart here to do another example. So if I have a slope of 4, parallel to that would be the same slope, so also 4. And then perpendicular, I need to change the sign. This was positive, so I make it negative. And I need to flip the fraction. Okay, but if I'm looking at this, there is no fraction. Okay, however, 4 is the same thing as 4/1. Okay, any number as a fraction is that number over 1. Now I can see that if I flip the fraction or do the reciprocal, it would be 1/4. Okay, so for a slope of 4, a parallel line would have a slope of 4, and a perpendicular line would have a slope of -1/4. The next example is -1/2. Okay, a parallel line would have a slope of -1/2. Those are the same. And a perpendicular line would have a slope of an opposite reciprocal. So this is negative, this would be positive. Okay, you don't have to write that, it's understood. And then you find the reciprocal. So I need to flip these. So it would be 2/1. Okay, positive 2/1 is the same as just 2. So either way you write it is fine. Okay, let's get to the 8.1 lesson practice problems. Okay, it says use your slope to support your answers to items 10 through 12. Number 10 says, is AB parallel to DC? Okay, well, I have to figure out the slope of AB and the slope of DC. Okay, I can tell by looking at this that these lines are going to meet, but it says use the slope, so let's go ahead and use the slope and see. If I'm looking at a graph, there's two ways I can do it. I can either count out the rise over the run, okay, or I can write what these 2 points are and plug them into the slope formula. Okay, the best thing or the easiest thing to do is probably just counting rise over run. So the slope of AB is what I need to find first. Okay, and I'm just gonna make a little note here. Okay, if I count from A to B, my rise, I'm going up 2. That's positive 2. And from there I run 1, 2, 3. So the slope of AB is 2/3. Okay, for DC, same thing. I'm gonna count my rise over my run. I'm rising 1, 2, 3, and I'm running 1, 2, 3. So rise over run would be 3/3. Okay, now I already knew that these weren't going to be parallel, but now I can use their slopes to justify that. The slope of AB is 2/3, where the slope of DC is 3/3. Because that's not the same number, I know that AB is not parallel to DC. Okay, now let's look at number 11. Is AB perpendicular to AD? Okay, well, I already know the slope of AB. I already counted the rise over run, so let's look at AD. Okay, rise over run. So I'm going to go from here, okay, or I can go from here, either way. My rise, if I start at A, I'm going down 1, 2, 3, 3. So if I'm going down for my rise, that is a -3. Okay, I went down 1, 2, 3, and now my run is 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's in the right direction, so it's positive. Okay, now it was asking me if AB and AD are perpendicular. Okay, that's what this symbol means, perpendicular. I know that if they're perpendicular, I need to have one negative and one positive, so good so far. And then the other thing is that they need to be reciprocals. So I need to flip the fractions. Okay, and that's where I see it's not right. This is 2/3 and this is 3/3. Okay, I would need one to be 3/2 and one to be 2/3. So number 11 is no. Okay, number 12. Is DC perpendicular to AD? Okay, well, I have these already. I have those already written down as the slopes. I have one negative. I have one positive. Okay, and even though it doesn't look like they're flipped, it's the same thing if I flip it. This is 3/3, this is 3/3. Okay, if I flipped it, it would still be the same. So AD and DC are perpendicular. This is yes. Okay, number 13. Line L passes through the origin and the point 3, 4. What is the slope of a line parallel to line L? Okay, well, if it's asking for a slope that's parallel to that line, okay, it's going to have the same slope. Okay, it gave me 2 points through the origin. Okay, the origin is 0, 0, and through point 3, 4. Okay, and then you just have to plug it into the slope formula. x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, slope is y2 minus y1. So 4 minus 0. And x2 minus x1, 3 minus 0. Okay, which reduces to 4/3. So the slope of a line that's parallel to line L is 4/3. The slope of line L is 4/3, and if it's parallel, it needs to have the same slope. Last is number 14. Angle RST is a right angle. Okay, right angle means perpendicular. Okay, if RS has a slope of 3, what must the slope of ST? What must be the slope, of ST? And explain, okay? I knew as soon as I saw right angle, they're thinking perpendicular. Perpendicular means that the slopes have opposite signs and the fraction is flipped. Okay, so we kind of did one like this on our chart. If I flip back to that, I can see I had one with a slope of 4, and the slope that was perpendicular was -1/4. Okay, this one I have a slope of 3. If the slope is 3, and I'm trying to find a slope that's perpendicular, because it forms a right angle, then I need to change the sign, so change it to negative, and flip the fraction. So instead of 3/1, it's 1/3. So the answer for number 14 is -1/3.